Question for you. If you ever launched a business, how often have you felt that there's a chance you may just die because you're running out of money, customers, or ideas? And that panic gives us a sinking feeling of helplessness, leading to anxiety. But it doesn't have to be that way. Our human brains intrinsically has this primitive framework of overestimating risk. Over the last few centuries, we have evolved astronomically towards longer lifespan, ways of procuring food and securing our surroundings. But our caveman brain still has this primitive model called flight or fight when we face risk. Unless we train ourselves to rethink what affects us and why, our brain is unable to isolate the degree of consequences between when you were in a car about to collide with a train and when you just lost a big customer or failed to raise money to pay salaries. And being unable to differentiate these two, we end up overestimating the risk of failure. As soon as we feel that gut-wrenching fear of failure, our brain goes to fight or flight mode. And in majority of the cases, by our primitive design, we take the path of flight and collapse. But if we just step back and ask why before falling into the trap, we can absolutely change the outlook, identify ways to handle the risk, and 99% of the times come out of it. So here are a few techniques how to do that. So it all depends on how we interpret our risk or situations. Researchers have found that our negative responses of helplessness can be short-circuited by how we explain our situation. How about externalizing the cause rather than internalizing it? When we internalize the reason for failure, we hold ourselves responsible for that. But externalizing it may give us the incentive to change the condition. Let's say you have been presenting to 10 angels and still unable to raise the money, and the first thing comes to your mind, I am terrible at pitching or communicating. Now, if you externalize it and think that the concept is challenging to explain and you need to change the messaging around it, then you have an action plan that you can work on. That is way better than being helpless. Next, let's try explaining your situation from a permanent to a temporary condition. Majority of the times, our primitive cranial framework locks us into a feeling of perpetuity. Like, I'm not finding new customers because I'm not born with the finesse of sales or persuasion, which is a permanent behavioral attribute. I personally was trapped into this for years. Now let's change this interpretation to, I have not been focusing on my sales pitch or growing my network or learning how to speak with command. Then immediately the problem becomes a temporary one and you have few action areas where you can work on, such as connecting with more people, rewriting your core strengths into your sales pitch, or working on your voice and presentation. Another helpful technique is to shift your assumption of a global condition to a more localized or specific issue. Like you may assume, I do not do well in trade shows because I never find the right people to talk to. And you start identifying your failure at trade shows as a global phenomenon. Now, change this context to a more specific case like, I couldn't find the last trade show valuable because I chose the wrong industry vertical and my product did not fit their needs. You see the difference? So now you have an action plan or the fight option to explore trade events and prospects that fit your product niche. What I'm trying to narrate here is that all our risk of failures are not permanent, and neither do they implicate our lives in such a way that we cease to survive. It is all about how we evaluate, reinterpret, and find action plans to change our condition. Hope you could gather a few interesting perspectives from here. And once again, please share your thoughts or reach out to me with ideas and feedback. Thanks again for your valuable time and have a wonderful rest of the day. Talk to you soon. Take care. Bye now.